The morning was soft and quiet as sunlight. Filtered through the windows of the bride's room, she sat on the edge of a chair looking at the reflection in the mirror. Her hands were slightly trembling, but there was a calmness in her eyes that came from knowing this day was hers in every way. She had spent months planning every detail, from the flowers to the dress to the music that would fill the hall. Later, she would walk down the aisle surrounded by friends and family who had come to witness a love they all admired. Yet in that quiet moment she was alone with her thoughts, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. The small choices, the long conversations, the sacrifices, both big and small, everything had led to this day, and she felt a mix of excitement and anticipation that was almost electric. The groom was in another room getting ready. He adjusted his suit for the third time, looking at the mirror, thinking about the vows he had rehearsed and the smile he would give. When he saw her, he felt confident, calm, sure that everything would go as planned. He imagined her walking toward him, the applause of the guests, and the feeling of finally holding her hand as they promised to share their lives he had not known of any surprises she had planned. But he trusted her completely, believing that love was a bridge that could not be broken. He could hear laughter from the hall as the first guests began to arrive, and it made him smile because he felt surrounded by warmth and support. In the hall, flowers were being arranged and chairs were being lined up. The air smelled faintly of fresh petals and polished wood. The staff moved quietly, making sure everything was perfect. The music that would play later was set to fill the room softly in the background, creating a sense of elegance and serenity. There was a feeling that something beautiful was about to happen that would stay in the hearts of everyone present. The bride had chosen the colors with care, soft shades that seemed to capture light and hope, while the groom had chosen music that felt personal and sincere. Each detail reflected a story. They shared a memory. A dream. Guests began to arrive, and the room slowly filled with familiar faces. There was warmth in greetings, hugs that lasted a little longer, and smiles that reached the eyes. Children ran quietly between chairs as elders looked on with gentle amusement. Everyone seemed to sense that this was not just an ordinary day, that something special was unfolding. They had seen the couple grow together. The laughter they shared, the challenges they faced, and the quiet moments of understanding that defined their bond. And now they were here to witness the next step, a day that would mark a beginning and a promise. All at once, the bride took a deep breath and walked to the window, looking out at the garden. She remembered the first time they met, the awkward introductions, the shy smiles, and the way he had looked at her as if he understood her even when the world did not. The memories came in waves, and she could feel the emotions rise and fall. Her heart was full of hope, gratitude, and a little nervousness. But above all, there was clarity. She knew that she was ready to reveal everything to the world and to him, and that thought gave her strength. She adjusted the dress once more, smoothing the fabric and straightening the small details that only she would notice. In another room, the groom was talking quietly with a friend, his voice steady, but his mind wandering to the moment he would finally see her. He thought about the journey they had taken together, the shared laughter, the silent comforts, and even the moments of tension that had taught them patience and understanding. He felt a sense of pride and admiration for her because he knew the effort and care she had put into everything, and he felt a deep love that was calm and steady. Not just the excitement of the daytime, moved slowly, and the moment drew nearer. The bride made her way to the hall, each step measured and thoughtful. The soft fabric of the dress whispered against the floor, and the subtle scent of flowers seemed to follow her. The guests turned as she entered, and there was a gentle hush. The groom saw her from the end of the aisle and felt his chest tighten, not with anxiety but with a profound sense of awe. She looked radiant, calm, and certain of herself, and he realized in that instant that all the rehearsed moments could never capture the reality of seeing her there in front of him as she walked. He remembered the promises they had made to each other in quiet moments alone, the conversations about dreams, the laughter shared under the stars, and the comfort of knowing they were on the same path. It was more than just a ceremony, more than a celebration. It was a reflection of their shared lives, of choices that had brought them to this room at this time. He felt a mixture of pride, excitement, and love that was steady and deep. The guests watched as the bride reached the end of the aisle and paused. She looked at the groom, and a smile crossed her face that was quiet but full of meaning. It was a smile that seemed to say that everything was about to change, and yet everything was right where it should be. There was anticipation in the room, like the pause before a note in a song that holds a melody in suspense. Everyone leaned forward in thought and expectation, sensing that something extraordinary was about to happen. The groom stood still. As he watched her, the moment seemed suspended in time. He thought of all the days that led to this one, the choices, the conversations, the quiet moments of connection, and even the challenges that had made them stronger. He felt a deep connection to her in that instant, a sense of understanding and recognition that this day was not just about celebration, but about truth and revelation. The music began softly in the background, and the bride continued her slow walk toward him. The light fell gently across her face, highlighting the determination and calm in her eyes. She felt ready to reveal the truth to him, and to the people gathered to witness the union. The groom felt the presence of every person there, but most of all, he felt the presence of her and the gravity of the moment that was about to unfold. He held his breath and waited for her to reach him, for the moment when words and actions would align for a truth that had been carefully carried to this day. As she reached him, he saw the confidence and the courage in her posture and the quiet strength that had been there all along. He realized that this moment was not just about love, it was about trust, about understanding, about seeing each other fully and without pretension. The room held its collective breath as the bride prepared to speak, as she prepared to change the course of the day in ways that would resonate long after the ceremony ended. The groom stood facing her, and in that moment, he felt a shift, a recognition that what was about to happen would define the memory of this day and the path they would take together. The guests sensed it, too. A ripple of curiosity and suspense ran through the room as everyone leaned slightly forward, unable to predict what would unfold. The bride took a deep breath, and her eyes met his with unwavering clarity and quiet resolve. She was ready to speak the words that would transform the perfect setup into something unforgettable. And the groom was about to hear what he had never imagined. The morning sun continued to filter through the windows, and the soft ooze continued to play in the background. There was a sense of timelessness in the room, as if the world had paused to watch this unfolding truth. The bride and groom stood facing each other, the culmination of months of planning and years of shared experiences coming to a pivotal moment. The guests waited silently, and the air was charged with anticipation. The stage was set for a revelation that would change everything, and the bride was ready to take the first step toward unveiling it to the world. The room was filled with quiet expectation. As the bride opened her mouth to speak, her eyes met the groom's, and there was a depth of calm and certainty that made the moment feel heavier than the gentle music that surrounded them. She began slowly, her voice steady but soft enough to draw every ear toward her words. She spoke of things that had been carried in silence, choices and secrets that had shaped her life before this day. She explained how every decision had led her here, how every step had prepared her for this moment with honesty and clarity. She wanted him to understand fully, not just the surface of their love, but the depths that had made her who she was. The groom felt a sudden tightening in his chest, a mixture of curiosity, fear, and disbelief. He had expected this day to unfold perfectly. With nothing hidden, he had imagined smiles, laughter, and vows, but he had not imagined a revelation. He listened carefully, trying to reconcile the woman he knew with the truths she was now revealing. The guests were silent, some leaning forward, their eyes wide with attention, sensing the gravity of what was being shared. They had come expecting a celebration, but what they were witnessing was something more complex, a truth that demanded thought and empathy. She spoke of moments in her past that she had kept private, moments that shaped her choices and her understanding of love. She spoke of challenges that had tested her courage and of dreams that had guided her through uncertainty. She explained the reasons for decisions that might have seemed mysterious or difficult to understand. She wanted the groom to see her fully, not as an ideal, but as a person with a history and with the strength to face life honestly and openly. The groom tried to focus on each word, but his mind raced. He remembered all the shared memories, the laughter, the late-night conversations, the gentle comfort of knowing she was there. He realized that this revelation did not diminish those moments, But it added layers to them. It showed resilience and courage that he had admired, but never fully understood until now. He felt emotions rising, a mixture of admiration, confusion, and the challenge of processing a new reality. Guests whispered softly, among themselves, some expressing empathy, others surprised by the revelation. Some felt admiration for the bride's bravery in speaking openly and honestly. They sensed that what she was sharing could change relationships but also deepen them if approached with understanding. The room was tense, yet quiet, as if everyone had collectively held their breath, waiting to see how the groom would respond. The bride continued to speak, her voice unwavering. She shared feelings she had kept private, fears she had overcome, and hopes for the future. She spoke of her love for him and her desire for a partnership built on truth. She wanted him to know that every word she spoke was meant to strengthen their bond, not weaken it. She had chosen this moment carefully to reveal her truth in a way that could not be ignored and could not be taken lightly. Groom felt his mind moving between past and present, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. He remembered times when small hints had appeared, moments when she had seemed distant or thoughtful, but he had dismissed them. He realized now that those moments had meaning that he had overlooked. He felt a mixture of regret and understanding, a desire to hold on to the love he felt, while also acknowledging the reality she was presenting. The bride paused for a moment, looking into his eyes. She wanted him to feel the honesty and gravity of her words, to understand that this revelation was not meant to shock or hurt, but to create the foundation of trust that could carry them forward. She allowed a brief silence to settle in the room, letting everyone absorb the significance of what had been shared. The groom felt the weight of the silence pressing on him, and he realized that he had to respond not just with emotion, but with thought. He thought about all the times they had supported each other through challenges, the quiet moments of understanding, and the laughter that had carried them through difficult days. He thought about how their love had been tested and strengthened over time. He felt a deep admiration for her courage and a recognition that love was not just about comfort and predictability, but about facing truth together and finding strength in honesty. Guests watched intently as he struggled to find words. He did not want to interrupt the honesty she was offering, but he also felt a need to express the mixture of emotions rising within him. He felt confusion and surprise, but also a deepening of respect and love. He realized that this moment was not just about revelation, but about the ability to respond with patience, empathy, and understanding. The bride observed him with quiet expectation. She had revealed her truth, not knowing how it would be received, but with confidence that honesty was the only path forward. She sensed his struggle and allowed space for him to gather his thoughts. She knew that love was tested in moments like these, when understanding was more important than immediate reaction. He took a deep breath and began to speak his thoughts slowly and carefully. He acknowledged the truth she had shared and the courage it took to speak it. He expressed a mixture of surprise and admiration, his voice steady as he admitted the challenge of processing something unexpected. He shared memories of their relationship, reflecting on how love had grown even when life had been uncertain. He recognized that the truth she had revealed added depth to his understanding, and that their bond could be strengthened if approached with patience and care. The bride listened quietly, letting him speak without interruption. She felt a sense of relief that the truth had been heard, that it had not caused irreparable harm, but had opened a door to deeper connection. She sensed that this moment was a turning point that could define not just the ceremony, but the journey they would take together. From this day forward, guests felt the tension in the room shift slowly from surprise and uncertainty to reflection and understanding. They saw the groom absorb the revelation and respond with thoughtfulness rather than immediate judgment. They sensed that the story unfolding before them was not just about love, but about courage, trust, and the human capacity to adapt to truths. The groom continued to speak, acknowledging emotions that were complicated and unexpected. He shared a desire to move forward with understanding and respect. He spoke of the importance of trust and honesty, and the value of facing challenges together. He expressed admiration for the bravery required to reveal something deeply personal and a willingness to embrace the complexity of what had been shared. The bride felt a warmth in the room as the groom spoke. She realized that their bond had been tested and was emerging stronger. She recognized that love was not only about joyous celebrations, but about facing truths. Together with patience, empathy, and courage, she saw in his eyes a willingness to meet her honesty with understanding and care, and it gave her hope for the journey ahead. The room seemed to breathe as the tension softened. The music continued in the background, gentle and unobtrusive. The guests relaxed slightly, sensing a new rhythm in the unfolding story. They saw a couple navigating truth and emotion in real time, and felt a sense of participation in something meaningful beyond ceremony. The groom finished speaking and took a moment to look at her fully. He saw the person he loved not as an idealized image, but as a complex human being with courage, depth, and honesty. He felt a mixture of admiration, love, and a renewed sense of partnership. He realized that this revelation was not an obstacle, but an opportunity to grow closer and understand each other more fully. The bride smiled softly, understanding that the moment had shifted from uncertainty to connection. She felt gratitude that her honesty had been met with empathy, and that the foundation of trust she sought was possible. She sensed that this was not the end of conversation, but the beginning of a deeper dialogue that would carry them forward in life. Together, guests began to settle into a quiet sense of reflection. They realized that the ceremony was now layered with meaning that went beyond celebration. They had witnessed a true moment of honesty and connection that was both intimate and powerful. They understood that love required courage, patience, and willingness to face truth together. Groom reached for her hand, feeling the strength and warmth of her presence. He felt that the challenges of the revelation had been met with openness and care, and that they were prepared to continue together with renewed understanding. He recognized that love was not static, and that moments like these defined its depth and resilience. The bride held his hand, understanding the significance of the moment. She felt a sense of relief and hope that their connection could embrace truth without fear. She realized that the day she had planned as perfect was now even more meaningful because it was authentic and real. She felt ready to continue the ceremony, knowing that honesty had reshaped it in a way that made it unforgettable. The soft music continued in the background, and the light through the windows seemed to catch the moment perfectly. Guests watched the couple with quiet admiration. Sensing that they had witnessed something rare and human, the room held a collective sense of respect for the courage and love that had been displayed, and the understanding that life and relationships were made richer by truth. The groom and bride stood together, ready to continue. The tension of revelation had shifted into connection. Their eyes met, and a silent understanding passed between them. They knew that the day would continue with celebration, but also with a renewed sense of partnership, honesty, and strength. They faced the future together, aware that love was tested in truth and strengthened by understanding. The room seemed to shift as the bride and groom remained standing together. The air held a mixture of relief and tension as the first moments of revelation passed. The guests were still watching, some with curiosity, others with admiration. They sensed that the moment was not over, that there was more to unfold, that the depth of feeling and understanding between the couple was still being tested. The bride and groom both understood that this day was no longer just about ceremony. It was about navigating emotion and connection in real time. Groom looked at her carefully, noticing the small expressions in her eyes, the slight movements of her hands, the way she held herself with quiet determination. He realized that the revelation had not changed the love he felt, but it had changed the way he understood her. It required him to think differently, to approach their relationship with new awareness and care. He felt the weight of responsibility to respond thoughtfully, not just with emotion, but with empathy and understanding. The bride sensed his attention and met it with calmness. She could feel his inner struggle, the way he processed each word, each thought, and she allowed him the space to do so. She knew that part of love was patience, that understanding could not be rushed, and that moments like these required careful navigation. She felt a quiet pride in his willingness to engage with her truth rather than retreat from it. Guests began to whisper softly among themselves. They noticed the subtle shifts in body language, the way the groom was holding himself, the careful gestures of the bride. They sensed that this was a pivotal moment in the ceremony that would define how the rest of the day unfolded. The atmosphere was quiet but intense as everyone became aware that real emotions were being shared. Not just performed, the groom took a step closer, feeling the warmth and presence of the bride. He thought about all the moments they had shared, the late-night talks, the laughter, the quiet comforts, and even the disagreements that had shaped their bond. He realized that love was never simple, that it required listening and reflection, that it was strengthened by facing truth rather than avoiding it. He felt a mixture of admiration and understanding and a desire to respond in a way that honored both their experiences. The bride spoke softly, continuing the conversation she had begun. She explained more about her perspective, the experiences that had led her to make certain choices, the fears and hopes that she carried. She wanted him to understand fully not just the facts of her life, but the emotions and reasoning behind them. She spoke with clarity and calmness, allowing her vulnerability to be visible without overwhelming the moment, though. Groom listened intently, his mind moving between memory and present observation. He considered the courage it took to speak openly, the vulnerability involved, and the honesty that required strength. He reflected on his own reactions, the ways he had assumed things without asking, and the ways he had taken some moments for granted. He felt a growing sense of respect and love for the woman standing before him. The guests continued to watch the interaction closely. They sensed that this was not a performance, but a real human moment, a demonstration of how relationships were navigated when truth was present. Some felt inspired by the honesty, others felt reflective about their own experiences. The room held a collective awareness that they were witnessing something authentic and meaningful. Bride paused, letting him absorb her words. She gave him the space to think, to feel, and to respond. She knew that this moment required patience, that immediate resolution was not necessary, that understanding could unfold slowly if allowed. The groom took a deep breath, feeling the weight and significance of the pause and the gravity of the day. He realized that his response would matter not just in the moment, but for the path they would walk together. He began to speak carefully, his voice steady, though filled with emotion. He acknowledged the truth she had revealed, the courage it took to share it, and the challenge it presented. He reflected on his own feelings of surprise and admiration, and shared how he had been processing what he heard. He spoke of the importance of empathy, patience, and mutual respect in continuing their journey together. He wanted her to know that the revelation had not diminished his love, but had deepened his understanding of her and of their relationship. The bride listened attentively, letting him speak without interruption. She felt a sense of relief that he was engaging with her honesty, with openness rather than defensiveness. She recognized that the day had shifted from a simple ceremony to a complex navigation of emotions and connection. She felt hope and confidence that they could continue with renewed understanding and shared strength. Guests sensed the tension beginning to ease. They noticed the careful dialogue, the mutual respect, the respecting management of complexity. They realized that this moment was teaching about the nature of relationships, about how honesty could create challenge and opportunity at the same time. They felt a quiet admiration for the couple navigating real emotions in front of them, and understood that what they were seeing was both intimate and public, a rare balance of human experience. The groom reflected on the moments of their past, the quiet supports, the shared laughter, the challenges that had been faced together. He realized that love was never static, that it required engagement, attention, and understanding. He felt a deep admiration for the strength and courage she had shown, and a recognition that their bond was evolving not in spite of revelation, but because of it. The bride observed him, noticing the shift in his expression, the careful thought in his gestures, and the calmness that was emerging from initial surprise. She felt reassured that he was willing to meet truth with understanding and to navigate complexity with care. She recognized that patience and empathy were becoming the foundation of their interaction, and that this would carry them forward not just in the ceremony, but in life together. The room settled into a quiet rhythm. Guests adjusted their posture, listened more intently, and allowed the moment to unfold. They sensed that a deeper story was being told, one that went beyond celebration into understanding and human connection. They felt the significance of witnessing honesty, courage, and reflection in real time, and understood that this was a rare glimpse into the strength of relationships when truth was faced directly. The groom reached for her hand, gently feeling the warmth and solidity of her presence. He felt that this simple gesture carried more meaning than words could convey, that it was a promise of engagement, patience, and mutual respect. He understood that connection was not only expressed in celebration, but in the careful listening and acknowledgement of experience. The bride held his hand and felt the steady strength of his response. She sensed that the revelation had been met with attention, care, and empathy. She realized that the day had become more than a ceremony, that it was now a testament to the power of honesty and mutual understanding. She felt confident that this moment would shape the journey they would take together long after the guests had left. The music continued softly in the background, and the sunlight fell across the room, highlighting the subtle movements and gestures of the couple. Guests observed quietly, sensing the authenticity and depth of the moment. They felt that they were witnessing a turning point, not only in the ceremony, but in the lives of the couple they had come to celebrate. The groom spoke again, reflecting on what had been shared. He expressed admiration for the courage required to reveal personal truth and recognition of the vulnerability involved. He acknowledged his own need to listen, to reflect and understand, and committed to continuing with empathy and patience. He conveyed a desire to move forward not just in ceremony but in life together with deeper awareness and respect. Bride listened, understanding the importance of his words. She felt that connection was being reinforced, and that the foundation of trust they sought was growing stronger. She knew that the revelation had transformed the ceremony into a moment of real human connection, a moment that would be remembered for its honesty and depth. She felt a quiet satisfaction that truth had been met with understanding and care. The guests relaxed into the unfolding dialogue, sensing that the tension was softening and that connection was deepening. They saw that the couple was navigating emotion, complexity, and truth with attention and empathy. They felt the significance of observing real human interaction and the lessons that could be drawn about patience, understanding, and love. Them. Groom and bride stood together, feeling the weight and significance of the moment. They understood that love was strengthened, not by avoidance, but by facing truth with courage and empathy. They sensed that this was a turning point, a moment that would shape not only the day, but the path they would walk together. The room seemed to hold its collective breath in quiet recognition of the depth of what had been shared. The bride smiled softly, seeing the thoughtful response in his eyes. She felt gratitude that the revelation had been met with openness, care, and reflection. She realized that the day was no longer just a ceremony, but a shared experience of honesty, trust, and growth. She felt prepared to continue with the ceremony, knowing that truth had created a stronger foundation for the journey ahead. The groom held her hand, feeling the solidity and warmth of connection. He understood that love required engagement, listening, and attention, and that moments like these defined the depth of partnership. He felt admiration, respect, and renewed commitment to navigate life together with empathy and understanding. The guests continued to observe quietly, sensing that a profound moment had taken place. They understood that this was more than celebration, that it was a lesson in honesty, courage, and human connection. They felt privileged to witness the couple navigating truth and emotion with attention, care, and patience. The bride and groom stood together, ready to move forward. They felt the weight of revelation shifting into a deeper bond. They knew that the day would continue with ceremony and celebration, but also with a renewed sense of partnership, understanding, and respect. They faced the rest of the day with clarity, courage, and the recognition that love was strengthened by facing truth together. The room held a stillness that felt alive as the groom took a deep breath and faced the bride fully. He felt the weight of the day, the anticipation, the emotions that had risen and shifted like waves in a quiet sea. He knew that the moment had arrived to speak his truth, to respond to her honesty, and to take the final step in a conversation that had defined the ceremony and would shape the journey ahead. He felt the presence of everyone in the room, the gentle attention of friends and family, and the quiet support that surrounded them, and he knew that this was not a moment to rush. He began slowly, his voice calm, but full of feeling. He reflected on everything that had happened, the surprises, the revelations, the courage it took to speak honestly, and the strength it took to listen. He acknowledged the complexity of what had been revealed and the emotions that it had stirred in both of them, he spoke of love not as a perfect, smooth road, but as a journey with twists and turns, moments of clarity and moments of challenge. He expressed gratitude for her bravery, for the openness that had created space for understanding, and for the depth of connection that had been strengthened by truth. The bride listened quietly, her eyes steady and calm, her hands held lightly in front of her, and she absorbed each word as if the world had narrowed to this single exchange. She felt relief, not in the sense that the challenge was over, but in the sense that honesty had been met with reflection, care, and empathy. She recognized in his words a maturity, a patience, and a willingness to embrace truth without judgment that she had hoped for, and in that moment she felt their bond deepen in ways that were quiet. But profound guests remained silent, their attention focused not on ceremony or ritual, but on the human connection unfolding. Before them, they sensed that this was the culmination of more than just a day of celebration, that it was the meeting of hearts and minds in a space of truth and respect. They felt the significance of witnessing the groom speak, not from rehearsed lines, but from reflection, from consideration, from a place of love that was real and grounded. He continued his words, acknowledging the challenges that the revelation had presented, the unexpected feelings, the brief moments of uncertainty, and the ways in which they had both responded. He spoke of forgiveness not in the sense of wrongdoing, but in the sense of accepting each other. Fully understanding that human experience is layered and complex, he expressed a desire to move forward together. With clarity, patience, and openness, he emphasized that partnership was built not on perfection, but on mutual understanding and the willingness to face the unexpected with care. The bride felt a warmth that spread slowly through her chest. She felt the tension of the day dissolve, not in sudden relief, but in the gentle recognition that truth had been received and met with engagement. She sensed a quiet shift in the energy around them, as if the room itself had acknowledged the honesty of the moment. The way he spoke reflected not just emotion, but thoughtfulness and reflection, and she felt a deep connection to the man before her and to the life they were about to continue. Building guests began to relax slightly, sensing the resolution that was emerging. They had witnessed tension, uncertainty, and revelation, and now they sensed the calm clarity of understanding. The couple had navigated complexity with grace, patience, and human attention. They had demonstrated that love required not just feeling, but reflection, listening, and care. They had shown that even in moments of surprise and revelation, connection could deepen when approached with empathy and awareness. Groom spoke of dreams they shared, hopes for the future, and the ways in which they had grown together. He reflected on the journey that had brought them to this day, the challenges that had been faced, and the victories, both quiet and celebrated. He acknowledged the importance of partnership as a continuous process of engagement and understanding rather than a static state. He expressed his willingness to continue with openness and attentiveness to the evolving nature of life and love. The bride listened with a calm patience that spoke of confidence and trust. She felt the depth of his reflection and the sincerity in his words. She realized that this was more than a declaration of love. This was an active engagement with truth, emotion, and connection. She felt her own heart align with his, not through expectation or performance, but through recognition and understanding of the human depth in the moment. Guests observed the subtle gestures, the careful pauses, the moments of eye contact, and the exchange of understanding between the couple. They felt that they were witnessing a rare form of communication, one that was intimate yet public, thoughtful yet natural. They sensed that the essence of the day was no longer simply ceremony, but the demonstration of connection, resilience, and the power of honesty met with reflection. The groom took a small step closer, feeling the gravity and warmth of the space they shared. He reached for her hands, gently allowing them to meet with softness and strength. He felt the reassurance of presence, the steady grounding of connection, and the acknowledgement that they had moved through a pivotal moment together. He understood that this gesture was more than symbolic. It was a recognition of shared vulnerability and mutual understanding. The bride met his hands with calm energy. She felt the gesture carry meaning beyond words, a bridge across the surprise and tension of the day, a confirmation of trust and alignment. She realized that the ceremony had become a space not just for celebration, but for the living practice of love, honesty, and attentiveness. She sensed that their bond was now defined not only by shared history and hope, but by the way they had navigated the unexpected with. The groom continued to speak softly, describing the importance of listening, understanding, and patience. He acknowledged that moments of surprise and revelation are part of life and relationships, and that how one responds can define the depth of connection. He expressed gratitude for her willingness to share and for the opportunity to respond thoughtfully and with openness. He reinforced that partnership is an ongoing engagement that values authenticity, trust, and reflection. The bride felt a quiet relief mingled with admiration and love. She understood that the groom's words were not scripted gestures, but an authentic reflection of thought and feeling. She sensed a mutual recognition of human complexity and the strength of choosing to navigate it together. She felt the day. The revelation and the response converge into a moment of shared understanding that was both intimate and enduring. Guests absorbed the exchange, sensing the authenticity of emotion and reflection. They recognized that this was a pivotal moment, not only for the couple, but for everyone present, witnessing the practice of honesty, courage, and attentive response. They felt a quiet respect for the unfolding human story that was revealing the layers of love, understanding, and commitment. The groom spoke of the future, acknowledging that life would bring challenges and surprises, but that together they could face them with patience, understanding, and mutual support. He described the value of partnership as a continuous practice of engagement, reflection, and care, rather than as an idealized perfection. He expressed hope and determination to continue building a life that honors both truth and love. The bride held his gaze, feeling a deep resonance with his words. She understood the importance of what had been expressed and felt that their bond was strengthened by the process. She sensed that their connection had evolved from celebration to an active engagement with human truth, emotion, and mutual awareness. She felt a steady confidence that together they could face whatever life presented with honesty and care. Guests noticed the calm assurance in their posture, the gentle strength in their gestures, and the shared understanding that passed between them. They sensed that what they were witnessing was more than a ceremony. It was a lived practice of trust, reflection, and human connection. They felt inspired by the courage and thoughtfulness of the couple and the authenticity of the moment. Groom concluded his words with quiet reflection, acknowledging the journey, the surprises, and the shared experiences that had led them to this moment. He affirmed his commitment to face life with honesty and patience, to continue listening and engaging with care, and to embrace both joy and challenge together. He expressed gratitude for the opportunity to navigate truth openly and for the bond that had been deepened through the experience. Bride felt the completion of a chapter in the unfolding day. She recognized the strength in his words, the sincerity in his reflection, and the depth of understanding that had emerged. She felt connected not only through love, but through shared recognition of human complexity and the choice to face it together. She sensed that the ceremony had become a living testament to courage, honesty, and partnership. Guests relaxed, fully sensing the resolution and depth of connection. They observed the couple standing together with hands joined, eyes aligned, and hearts open. They understood that the day had moved beyond expectation into something profound that reflected the power of truth. Met with reflection, the energy in the room shifted from tension and dissipation to calm, shared appreciation and admiration for the living expression of human connection. The groom and bride turned together toward the guests. Their hands remained joined, a symbol of alignment, trust, and ongoing partnership. They moved forward in ceremony, not simply as participants, but as exemplars of how love can navigate surprise, revelation, and human complexity. They acknowledged the shared presence of everyone in the room and the collective witness to a story that was real, human, and deeply moving. The music filled the room, softly carrying the moment with it. The sunlight continued to filter through the windows, and the air felt lighter as connection, understanding, and commitment had taken root. The groom and bride moved forward side by side, aware that the day had changed, not in its details, but in its meaning. That revelation had brought depth, and reflection had brought strength. Guests clapped softly, not out of performance, but out of shared recognition and respect they felt inspired by the human capacity to face truth, respond thoughtfully, and embrace connection fully. They witnessed the power of patience, empathy, and mutual understanding. They carried the energy of the moment in their own hearts, feeling the quiet but profound impact of the unfolding story. The groom and bride continued the ceremony, knowing that this day would be remembered not only for celebration, but for the honesty, courage, and reflection that had defined it. They moved forward with calm energy, steady hearts, and awareness that love is a practice, not a moment, and that every truth faced together strengthens the bond that carries through life. Room seemed to settle into a gentle rhythm as the ceremony concluded. The couple stood together, hands joined, hearts aligned, knowing that the revelation, the dialogue, and the reflection had transformed the day into something unforgettable. Guests smiled, inspired, and absorbed the human story that had unfolded before them, a story of truth, courage, and the depth of connection that makes love enduring. The day continued with a calm energy as the couple walked together. Through the space they had created for celebration, they moved slowly, noticing the smiles and quiet admiration of the guests. The bride felt a gentle sense of relief and fulfillment, knowing that the revelation and the response had not disrupted the bond they shared, but strengthened it in a way that was both subtle and profound. She noticed the way the groom held himself with quiet confidence and care, recognizing that his presence was steadying and comforting to her in every moment. Groom observed the people around them, noticing the warmth in their eyes and the attention they gave not only to the ceremony, but to the human story that had unfolded. He felt a sense of gratitude for the presence of everyone in the room and for the way they had witnessed the unfolding of emotion and understanding. He realized that the day was not simply about celebration, but about connection, the sharing of truth, and the acknowledgement of vulnerability. Bride looked at the details around her, the soft colors of the flowers, the gentle glow of light through the windows, and the careful arrangements that reflected her vision and care. She felt a sense of accomplishment, not in the perfection of the space, but in the authenticity of the day, in the way her truth had been met with understanding. She felt a quiet joy in knowing that every step had led to this moment of human connection and reflection. The groom felt the weight of the day lightly pressing on him in a way that was calming rather than heavy. He thought about the journey of the morning, the revelations, the conversations, and the shared moments of reflection. He understood that love was not static, that it required attention, patience, and empathy. He felt a deep appreciation for the courage it had taken to reveal the truth, and the willingness it had inspired to engage fully with one another. Guests mingled quietly, noticing the subtle shifts in energy and emotion. They saw the couple moving together with a sense of calm confidence and human understanding. They observed gestures, small and significant, the gentle touch of a hand, the attentive gaze, and the quiet moments of connection that spoke more than words could. They felt a sense of inclusion in the unfolding story, a recognition of the human capacity to face challenges and embrace truth. The bride and groom walked toward a small seating area, taking in the soft hum of conversation and gentle laughter. They allowed themselves to pause in the midst of the activity, noticing the details of each other, the way the light caught her hair, the way his hands rested naturally at his side. They felt the quiet intimacy of the moment, not as a public display, but as a private acknowledgement of shared experience and understanding. Groom spoke softly, describing his thoughts and feelings from the morning, the way the revelation had initially surprised him, and the way reflection and engagement had transformed his perspective. He spoke of admiration, gratitude, and love for the courage it had taken to reveal the truth. He expressed a desire to continue navigating life together with patience, attentiveness, and empathy, acknowledging that partnership required continuous care and awareness. The bride listened quietly, feeling the resonance of his words. She felt a deep sense of alignment and connection, recognizing that the day had moved beyond ceremony into the lived practice of mutual understanding. She acknowledged the value of reflection and the way honesty had deepened their bond. She felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that their engagement with truth had strengthened their partnership and created a meaningful foundation for the future. Guests continued to observe the interaction, sensing the authenticity and depth of connection. They noticed the careful attention to emotion and thought, the subtle expressions of care and engagement, and the steady energy that had replaced the initial tension. They felt inspired by the demonstration of human understanding and reflection, and recognized that what they were witnessing was more than celebration. It was a living story of connection. The groom and bride moved slowly through the hall, greeting guests with warmth and attentiveness. They engaged in quiet conversations, acknowledging kind words and gestures while remaining attuned to each other. They allowed themselves moments of reflection between interactions, noticing the shared attention of others and the gentle support that surrounded them. The bride felt the weight of gratitude and connection lightly pressing in her chest. She observed the subtle details, the gentle gestures of those around her, the quiet attention and respect. She felt a sense of harmony emerging from the unfolding day, a recognition that truth, courage, and empathy had created a rhythm that carried through the space and into the hearts of everyone present. Groom reflected on the significance of the day not just as a celebration but as a lived experience. He understood that revelations and responses had shaped the narrative not only for themselves but for those who witnessed the interaction. He felt a sense of calm confidence in the way honesty and reflection had guided the moments and created a meaningful human story. Guests moved quietly through the hall, noticing the subtleties of interaction, shared glances, and the gentle touches that conveyed understanding and care. They sensed the authenticity of the couple's bond, the alignment of emotion and thought, and the quiet power of truth met with reflection. They felt a sense of inclusion in the narrative, a quiet awareness of being part of something human and profound. The bride and groom found a quiet corner away from the main flow of the hall. They paused to observe the activity around them, noticing the subtle ways the day unfolded and the attention of guests moving gently through the space. They felt the steady rhythm of their connection, the ongoing dialogue of gestures and presence that had carried the day from revelation through reflection and toward deeper understanding. The groom spoke quietly, acknowledging the shared experiences of the morning, the engagement with truth, and the importance of empathy and attention. He reflected on the significance of the revelations not as obstacles but as opportunities to strengthen the bond of partnership. He described the value of continuous listening, reflection, and mutual support in building a life together. The bride listened attentively, recognizing the depth of his reflection and the sincerity of his engagement. She felt a sense of alignment and connection that went beyond words. The unfolding day had become a living story of partnership, the practice of love, and the conscious engagement with human emotion. She felt quiet satisfaction in knowing that truth had been met with patience, care, and understanding. Guests continued to observe, noticing the calm energy and steady presence of the couple. They sensed the depth of connection that had emerged and the significance of the human interaction that had unfolded. They felt inspired by the demonstration of engagement and reflection and recognized that this was more than celebration. It was a testament to honesty, courage, and care. The groom and bride moved back into the central area of the hall, engaging gently with guests, acknowledging the quiet admiration and warmth of attention. They allowed themselves to pause, occasionally noticing each other, the subtle gestures, the way their hands met briefly, the shared acknowledgement of presence and understanding. They felt the steady flow of energy that had emerged from the morning and recognized the importance of sustaining it through attentiveness and care. Bride reflected on the depth of the morning and the way the revelation had transformed the day. She observed the calm confidence and thoughtful presence of the groom, recognizing the shared effort that had created alignment and connection. She felt a quiet joy in the human capacity to engage with truth and emotion and to respond with empathy and reflection. The groom considered the significance of the unfolding moments, the subtle ways in which understanding and connection had been reinforced. He acknowledged the courage and patience required to navigate truth and recognized the importance of continuous engagement in building a resilient partnership. He felt a sense of calm appreciation for the shared human experience and the meaningful connection it had created. Guests moved quietly through the hall, participating in the unfolding narrative with gentle observation and reflection. They noticed the attentive gestures, The steady energy and the mutual care of the couple, they felt included in the human story. Recognizing the power of truth met with reflection and the quiet beauty of attentive engagement.